Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is a fantastic game, back to basics game, something that gamers have been longing for. A nice, simple, message-free piece of entertainment that is just fun. Make it fun first. I say it over and over again. And it looks like, the developer of Space Marine 2 agrees. In this little article from John F. Trent over at That Park Place, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 developer admits games at Embracer made him want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging and imposing morals on gamers. We're getting a good bit of that as of late, Dustborn. Anyway, overblown attempts at messaging. Warhammer 40k, the only messaging Warhammer 40k has in it is for the Emperor. That's it. And that is in-universe messaging, which is another thing I just love about the game. It actually makes me want to play the 40k tabletop game, but I don't have the finances for that or the time. Hoo boy. But anyway, let's get on to the article. In a comment on a video of the Asmongold YouTube channel, where Asmongold reacts to Legendary Drop Space Marine 2 as a reminder of what we lost. You should definitely watch that video. Karch made his opinion clear. Now, if this is indeed CEO Matthew Karch, which, people believe it is, I absolutely love his messaging. He wrote, "Hey man, CEO of Saber here. I love your videos. Don't we all? Go check out Legendary Drops for sure. Go check out Asmongold too. You're not going to agree with everything he has to say, but we all like different opinions. Differing opinions are healthy in all of this. Stay out of that echo chamber. But I digress. When we signed the deal to make Space Marine 2, all I wanted was a throwback game. And thank you so much for that. We had the chance to work on something with which, by its nature, was old school. I can't even comprehend many of the current games that we play these days. They are too complex and too much of an investment. Now, while I can half agree with that statement. Too complex. Some games will be too complex. Some games will have a massive investment as far as time goes. And, not all games are for everyone, and that's okay. Not every game needs to be for everyone. Next, he shared that he was inspired by Halo. We worked on Halo back in the day, and that game could be distilled down to the simplest of shooting loops, but it was entirely addicting. That is what we wanted to recapture, and I will have to say this, you succeeded. You took the most, I don't want to say basic, because no, Space Marine 2 is not a basic game. I do not consider it a basic game. It is but it's not complex. You have your buttons, you have your dodge, you have your switching between weapons, you have your different, you can catch the enemies as they charge towards you. If you press their button at the right time, you have your, I guess, what could be considered your special abilities, in order to deal with different foes. And each class, especially in the multiplayer aspect of the game, each class brings something different to the table. Each class is different, is unique in its own right, with different abilities, different pros, different cons, and whatnot, and absolutely fun thing to play. So I wouldn't call it complex, but I wouldn't call it simple. Definitely addicting, definitely a wonderful gameplay loop, fun gameplay loop, and you definitely recaptured it. Let's keep going. Karch then shared his hope that Space Marine 2 and Black Myth Wukong are the start of a revival in the video game industry to get back to fun and immersion. Make it fun first. And with the success of Black Myth Wukong and Space Marine 2, looks like that's what we're doing. Please let us go back there. The power fantasy gameplay loop that's just go here, do this, rinse and repeat, and make it fun. He wrote, quote, I hope that games like Space Marine 2 and Wukong are the start of a reversion to a time when games were simply about fun and immersion. Yes, please, we'll take more of that. Finally, he lamented the state of the industry during his brief time as Chief Operating Officer at Embracer Group. Here's where he got a little criticism. I spent some time as chief operating officer at Embracer, and I saw games there that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging and imposing morals on gamers. That is definitely a major problem across not just video games, but across the entertainment industry. These companies, these devs, these CEOs, whoever is in charge of putting this out there, they want to push some sort of moral ground, some sort of messaging in their power fantasies, in the bits of escapism that we are looking for, whether you're a gamer, a moviegoer, sit down and watch TV. We're looking for that escapism to get away from the overblown messaging that we get in the real world. Something to help us forget the trials and tribulations of walking out of our front door and dealing with the public and with work and with all that other nonsense. And with all these developers, with all these studios trying to push real world nonsense into our fantasies, into our escapism, I wouldn't say we're running out of places to go, but we're getting very selective, especially when it comes to our wallets and where we spend our money, getting very selective as to where we go to find that escapism. More and more people are, well, voting with their wallet. They're waiting for the reviews. They're waiting for other people's opinions that they trust. And, well, got people like over here with Space Marine 2. They're doing it right. Something simple, something basic, a nice little breath of fresh air when it comes to our video game escapes. Ending a quote, "We just want to do some glory kills and get the heart rate up a little bit." Boy, you accomplished that with Space Marine 2. Jesus. For me, that is what games should be about. Yes. Make it fun first. Fuckers. It appears he has accomplished that with, oh, that's an understatement. It appears he has accomplished that with Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, despite Warhammer's parent company Games Workshop, well, doing what Games Workshop does. Pushing overblown messaging. Games Workshop's going to do what they want. Whoever's owning them, whoever's running the show, whatever. They're going to do what they want. But Space Marine 2 just, I guess, did enough to not have to follow any edicts from Games Workshop. Was there anything? I am curious about that. I wonder if the Games Workshop tried to push any of the messaging with Space Marine 2. The game has a user score of 80 on Metacritic from 440 reviews, 341 positive across PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox, 48 mixed, and 51 negative. Now, some of the comments on Steam, we're going to go through those. Let's see. On Steam, the game has a very positive reviews. I definitely recommend it. Yes, it's a $70 price of admission, and some will say the campaign itself is very short. It's only 10 hours. The main campaign, the core story campaign where you play as Titus, is roughly only about 10 hours. However, the multiplayer co-op missions are still, in fact, part of the campaign. That will give you a little bit more story as to what little operations, what these other groups of Space Marines are doing while Titus is doing his work. They are still part of the story, and I would consider them to still be part of the campaign. So, adding those as gameplay time, I think that's fair. Some of the top reviews praise the games for its old school feel. A review from Fat as Falcon states, "This game feels like it was made in the mid-2000s, early 2010s, but in a good way." I agree. Let's see. Broken, I have no idea. We're just going to go with Broken. What a good game. It's simple, fun, and epic. If you don't know anything about 40k, honestly, you don't have to. This is a good introduction. If you are already a fan of the universe, you must have this game. Definitely agree. I do believe Space Marine 2 respects the lore of the tabletop game. I do, 100%. Honestly, it might be my game of the year this year, The Emperor Protects. He added, "Personally, I like that the campaign wasn't so long with filler and tedious missions. It was intense and focused, something rare these days. And yes, for now, it does not have much content." Not quite true. Again, the objectives, the multiplayer co-op, that is part of the game. It adds more story to it. And you can play a different class each time you do it, and it might change. I've gone through the same one, the very first objective, operations, that's what it's called. I went through the very first operation about 10 times, and the Tyrannid placement that you ran into was different half the time. I was getting irritated almost, particularly one zoanthrope that kept showing up when I didn't realize he was there. I digress. And yes, for now, it does not have much content, but that doesn't worry me because the content can be added later. And again, if you buy I think there is a season pass, and there are going to be additions to the game that are free. And there will be extra additions to the game if you purchase the season pass. So they are adding things. They will be adding things for free over the next year, which is, again, a bonus. They have a solid game on their hands. My first impression is that this work shows passion, detail, and love for the franchise, and the first impression is what is worth the most. Couldn't agree more. Campaign is epic. Yes, it was. Purge the unclean, death to the Xenos, long live the Emperor. I just wish that it would run better. Now, this is an unfortunate thing for him, for his PC. Extremely CPU demanding. I'm a console peasant right now. I play it on the PlayStation 5, and it still looks fantastic. And I really can't see where all that CPU power goes. So, Saber, please, more optimization, please. Well, did you try turning down? Well, no. Anyway, turn down the graphics. He then listed a number of positives and negatives. Positive, gun feel good. Yes, they do. Melee and execution are satisfying. Yes, indeed. Looks good. Absolutely. Can only carry two types of guns, primary and secondary. Now, this is not the fault of the video game itself. This is the rules. I believe you can barely, on the tabletop, you're lucky if you can carry two guns. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't played since 5th edition. And I never played the Blueberries. I never played Space Marine, so y'all correct me if I'm wrong. This is more, I think the two types of guns is more... Oh, no, that's true. Space Marines, they always have a bolter pistol. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I remember it, a Space Marine always have the bolter. And then they can have another weapon after that. Correct me, again. I'm not going to say that again, but what do you think of Karch's comments? I think they're fantastic. It shows that he cares about what he is making, which is something that we seem to be exceptionally lacking in this industry. As far as the comments on Embracer, nothing should surprise you. The push to have messaging and imposing morals on gamers. We get called nasty, nasty words if we don't like a product, and accusations of racism simply because, the main protagonist just happens to be of a certain color, but we didn't like the character, so obviously we don't like the actor or actress, right? Well, that's not the case, and they know it, we know it, but they're still going to push that messaging. People are getting tired of it, moving on, and looking for fun things like Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, and, I don't know, Astrobot and Black Myth Wukong. More games like that come out, the more they will make money, the more they will make gamers happy, and the more games like Concord and Dustborn will fail miserably. But let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things that YouTube is begging you to do, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.